Hi, this is Sheila. Welcome to Conscious Conversation Central, and I'm with BZ Rieger and Lisa Flamino Resch. And it is still Sunday, September the 23rd, 2018. And for our second conversation of the evening, we're going to talk about how to recognize a nudge and why one might want to, what value one might find in the following of said nudges. And sorry, I don't know why I got so distracted just then. I was thinking back to a lot of nudges that I haven't followed in my life, and not realizing, I guess it's just like all a lot of them started flooding in, like, different things that I have kicked myself for, this, that, or the other. Oh, if I'd only, that was my first answer and I changed it, or, something like that. That's always been, something around that for me personally, where some thing comes up and you'll bat it away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I'm trying not to do that anymore. But I noticed that while that was, yeah, I'm done with that now. No, sometimes I'm not,
but for the purposes of this particular video, I would love it if you would share that again, because recognition of the fact that one has been doing that is a step that goes towards actually saying, oh, wait a minute, that wasn't it. Don't bat it away.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, and don't argue with it either.
Now, did you know they were nudges?
Not at first. I do now.
And you still do
now. And yeah, I've caught myself a couple of times. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, but they're heavy. You don't understand. Right? And then I got where I was going, and I was like, oh, I'm so glad I carried that heavy water because we have none. And then I was instantly buoyed. Yay. But no, sometimes I do still want to argue with it, because even in my limited wisdom, I think I know a thing. But really, the beauty of it is I do know a thing. And if I just allow what is trying to gift me in every moment of now, imagine where I'd be.
You know a whole lot of things.
Yeah, I know.
And they'd be pretty damn spectacular.
Yes. I know.
Well, BZ, before I met you and Lisa, there were a couple of times where I would notice things on my own. I wouldn't have called it noticing, but and I wouldn't have called what I noticed a nudge that I didn't follow either back then. Right. But I'm sharing it now because it can be as subtle as driving down the road and being told, because any place you live, there's multiple ways to get around the city, to go from one place to another. When you've lived there for a while, you can go this way to go to where you're going to, or you can go this way. There's always like multiple routes one may take. And to give an example, I was driving down the road one day and I had a nudge to turn right and go to my destination via this way. I ignored that nudge as the light was green and it didn't want to stop. So I was like, no, go this way. Only to find when I got down the street that there was a concert there and I was now stuck in traffic. So at the time that happened, though, all I did was kick myself and I didn't recognize what actually had occurred, that I had been given guidance by my own self, hey, turn here. And, so, but now I see that. So I wanted to point that out because it can be something as simple as that. And I didn't see it then, only in hindsight of, hanging out with you ladies and really looking into a lot more about, these sorts of things before I recognized that.
Yeah, and you can call them whatever you like. To me, they're a nudge. And as we'll talk about, as we go a little further into playing with this, sometimes they're a shove or a come on, let's go, kind of a thing, the old one-armed bear hug. That's, call them whatever you want. If you don't like nudge, go with something else. And for me, I always follow my nudges, and and listen to them. Did I start doing that from the first nudge? No, but not all that long after, because I would get really good empirical data that the nudges were my friends and very helpful. And I could have comparison views with nudge, without nudge. What do you think?
Yeah, no, exactly. This being stuck in traffic, it was my empirical data.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And nudges are all coming from the same source, haha, pun intended. And your soul,
We lost your audio a little bit.
From your soul, you may find, if you can feel nuances, you may feel that some are a little bit different. They just feel a little different. Or you could say that they have a little bit different frequency vibration, or there's a different maybe depth to it or something. And those could then be your higher selves, your guides, which are all you. They're just different energy, frequency, vibrational ranges that they come through on. So remember, you're toroidal in your multidimensionality, and so all those things can be like that. And one has a linear, well, you came in anyways with a linear brain and a linear, the linear brain kind of looks at and assimilates and slots information, data, and experiences in that very linear way. So beings who first started talking about, their nudges, whatever that word, their intuition.
I'm going to need you to pull your volume up somehow, because it seems like it's almost getting worse. I just don't want to lose what you're saying there.
Yeah.
So, I characterize my nudges and my intuition as different.
Yell at me for a second.
Sheila!
Thank you. Now continue. I think that will help. I'm serious. Please do it again.
Yell again?
Well, there's something about there's something about the transition of the mics, it seems.
I know. I have to go get a new mic.
But we did that once before, and it was kind of...
Well, apparently I need to go find money and spend more money. Anyways, next time I'm allowed out, I'll do that. Doesn't happen very often, but you know. Okay, can you hear me now?
It's a little better, yes.
That better?
When you blow on it for a moment, yes. Only for a moment. Only when you're blowing on it.
Okay.
Sorry.
I know, it's frustrating.
It is frustrating because we just don't want to miss anything you say, BC.
Well, it's
and I can feel the frustration. If I'm leaning forward to hear you, I'm certain everybody else is too. And you, my dear, aren't EF Hutton at the moment.
Thank God.
I know. Now we can hear you great. So please continue.
I just blew everybody back in their recliners. It was like, whoa. Where was it? I hold my intuition and my nudges as distinctly different. My intuition is a strength of mine. It's one of my superpowers. It's one of my innate abilities. And I can use that muscle and build it up so that it's really finely tuned. That's different than a nudge, because a nudge really, maybe at the beginning you'd say it's a nudge, but what it is it's a conversation, and you're hearing, feeling, sensing, partaking in it in different ways, and that's the direct communication with your soul. So all of that is really unnecessary when you have a broader perspective, because it just is, all that just is. But I'm trying to kind of...
No, I'm glad you did, because this is the first I've ever heard this, and I've not even considered holding it in that manner.
Yeah.
I looked at them as one and the same.
Well, like I said, that's a linear deconstructing, parsing them out of them. They're all you.
Right. I know, I get that part, yeah.
Right. But for example, you wouldn't be having a conversation with your intuition. Your intuition would be intuiting and
I'm sorry. The smart ass in my head just goes, well, you're not having a conversation with much of anybody, Sheila.
So, you know what I mean? I mean, that makes sense. But however, the nudge, which is actually, it just comes across as a nudge or a little prompt here and there, right? When you're first starting out. And sometimes depending, it's, for me, it's a good euphemism that I can use no matter where I am with any being, no matter where they are in their aperture, on their frequency vibration, and they kind of get what it means. Does that make sense? So that's probably when I long ago started using it. That, and I got a nudge to do X, Y, and Z, and I always follow my nudges. So now, what I don't elaborate on is it was a whole conversation, and it was a conversation where there's two parts to the conversation, and it's very rich, and there's all sorts of stuff going on. That's kind of like a little short spot to just say a nudge.
Okay.
But so I wanted to go back to realizing that you're having nudges. That's so they will come in all different ways. Talking about labeling something, labeling this conversation, labeling your connection to, labeling your well, your connection as a nudge is just, first of all, that for some people, I don't know why, but it makes them comfortable because somehow it's outside, so they got a nudge. So rather than listening to themselves, they got the nudge. So so they might follow that because they don't listen to themselves. And then eventually, one widens one's aperture and opens one's heart, and you go, oh, hey, that's me. and a lot of me has it all going on, and it's life so much more fun and so much more enjoyable and so much richer when I hang out with the rest of me. So I'm gonna keep doing it. But at first, you could, if listening to your intuition is also helpful for proving to your soul that you can be trusted, that you can keep your word, that you are following through on what you yourself, nobody else, agreed to do before you came here. You could also look at it, yeah, that's a very good point. You could also look at it as kind of your breadcrumbs home. So your breadcrumbs to remembering, your breadcrumbs to removing the veils from yourself, your breadcrumbs to your multidimensionality.
Well, as you know, I personally have had trouble with knowing the difference between recognizing a nudge versus chatter, possible chatter. And I know, I know part of that may be a frequential difference.
Well,
but when it's all you
want to, let's play. So let's go very base and linear for a moment.
Okay.
Your nudges will never try to sell you anything.
Right.
Unless there's some really big emergency, like you're just about to step on the road and you all agree that you don't really want to get smushed by that truck, they're not going to try to sell you anything. In which case, you won't get a nudge, you get a shove, and it'll be, back out of the way. So there's no trying to convince you of anything, because that, first of all, is not allowed. That's the non-interference, and that's a disservice. And until you have a holding within yourself, on the linear aspect of you is running the linear aspect of you.
I'm sorry, repeat that.
Until you have a holding, until you, holding of everything together, integration, and there's a non-interference, so that they're not trying to sell you anything, trying to get you to do anything, because I said it really well the first time. I'm trying to pull it back. Because you, the linear aspect of you, is in charge of the linear aspect of you until you have some expansion. In other words, you've got to figure it out. You've got to open up to it. You've got to open the door and say, oh, it's an inside job. Okay.
Yeah, hand the wheel over, if you will.
Yeah. Whether that's done because you one day felt, however you want to characterize it, you experienced something and you went with it and it was a pleasing thing, or as I used to say, after I got run over by the 500th truck, I decided to try something slightly different because that wasn't working so good. So everybody is different. Everybody does it different ways. Now, there's tremendous amount of growth and richness, and actually, when you get to a broader perspective, sheer yumminess in the getting run over by a truck stuff. It gets old from a linear perspective, but there is. So, and again, none of it is wrong. So going back to, you won't be sold anything. Now, if you're having voice in your head, or however you would characterize that, where there is that trying to convince you of doing something, or steer you this way, or if it's that kind of thing, you might hear that, you might intuit that, you might get a sense of that, however however that might come in, but that is not you. That is not clean. That's not your guides. Whatever narrow aperture you want to step down to, energetic frequency step down to. It's not, simply doesn't show up that way ever. Like I said, the only caveat is if it's a life or death thing, and you've agreed that you're not at this point choosing the death.
Well, I asked the question partially for myself, of course, but also because, as a proving for my own self, what I've been doing is just following them anyway, whether I think it's chatting in my head or a nudge. I'm following it for the moment as a proving to myself.
Well, that's also a fabulous way to build your discernment muscles. Because none of these things are isolated. They're all parts of you could describe it as parts of your apparatus of your amazing body and bodies, all the different ones that are in that. I just wanted to make sure that we noted that, because I could describe to you in great detail the different ways that I get nudges, what they feel like, how they experience them, what senses, all those different things. And many someones may have similar things, may have just little bits, may have none of that, So since we're all unique, they're going to come in unique ways. So for example, someone may have something that's very similar to what, if I went into great detail and described them, wow, yeah. But there are little nuances that are different. And one of the reasons that is that as you get more adept and tuned into that conversation, the reason for those nuances that are unique to you is because that's part of your energetic signature.
Well, yeah, that makes perfect sense because we're all unique. So, of course, because we are all unique, we're going to have an energetic signature. So that makes sense to me.
Right, but I mean the way that it comes to you because it's you talking to you, right? Mm-hmm. So you can be discerned if someone can't it can't masquerade as that because it's not
you.
So right. Other people can also who are finely tuned to that can discern that as well.
Well, it just seems to me like it's all going to be individual and different anyway, no matter how we slice it. Like you said, it's going to be, there are similarities, and not always all across the board either.
Well, for an example,
that's going to be in everything.
Yeah. So this is a fur baby example, but everybody's seen a black Labrador, right? So you can have two black Labradors standing next to each other, and a lot of people who are not familiar with that will say, well, wow, they look exactly the same. How can you tell them apart? I mean, you know, and if they're both your black labs, you're going, what? They don't look at all alike, you know.
Yeah.
And you can just quickly, without even not even taking personality, you can just quickly, you know, rattle off all, you know, 100 differences just off the top of your head, even thinking about it. And so that's what I'm saying. You know, they can seem very similar, but one is yours and one is mine.
Right. Totally unique as to each, because we are totally unique.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to I'm sorry. I was just going to say that I'm going to reach out and talk to myself in a way that I can maybe someday partially comprehend. And it's going to be different because I hear differently than BZ or Lisa, and I see differently than BZ and Lisa, and I feel things differently than BZ and Lisa, and we all, each of us do. So of course it would be different, but there would be similarities.
But I guess one of the reasons that I'm pointing this out, aside from, you know, not comparing, right? Mm-hmm. So as a way to kind of nip that linear habit in the bud, but also is another way to help you realize that you're multidimensional. So this is how you're known around the multiverses. You're recognizable. It may only be just part of you that's out there that's recognizable, because maybe you haven't had the holing yet, so you're not a polarized being, and your frequency is not coalesced in that, right? And or you're not, you know, haven't gone through physical body ascension, and, you know, there's myriads of different ways, so that all of you, but nonetheless, you know, people don't need to carry ID. It's innate to them. And it's unmistakable.
Yeah, I cannot pretend to comprehend all of that just yet, but I am feeling like
you know how your name in numerology is supposed to like be an energetic snapshot of, you know, I kind of see it that way for me too, because, you know, you can kind of hold it like it's a broadcast of everything that includes you. And it's multidimensional. So there's tons and tons and tons to it that we're not always going to see or perceive, but it's included in the frequency.
Yeah, that's a great metaphor.
And it can be felt, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I just want, yes, that's it's very cool, and it's a very big subject. I just wanted to touch on it here for, you know, but aside from the, you know, comparing thing, but also that, but yeah, that's actually, Lisa, not only was that a great metaphor, but that's a toolbox tool, because people can play with that and see what their own is, and you know, it's not linear exact because it's energy, but at least that's a good, you know, narrow aperture tool from a linear perspective to play with it. So excellent. That's great.
Well, we'll have to come back and play with that, because I just heard somebody say, "Oh, really? How does that work?" I know I heard that.
I'm sure you did. We could go half a second on each of these videos, whoever's talking, and go, okay, what about that and that and that? Or, why? How do we do it?
Notice, that's how.
So what does it feel like? Well, you can actually feel it in your body. You may feel a nudge. You may have your repertoire that includes a variety of things, not all always there, if that makes sense. So I think a really good way to give an analogy is the conversation. You know, sometimes if you have somebody that you know really well, and it's a good, healthy, really well knowing, and sometimes you sit down and have, you know, a deep conversation, and sometimes, you know, you're just you're seeing some each other, and maybe it's a snack or coffee break, so it's just running in and out, you know, kind of thing. You don't have to. I'm not even talking about, you don't have to. This being doesn't have to live with you. I'm just right, however it is. Sometimes there's a shorthand. You may be out someplace doing different things, and there's kind of like this shorthand that you have, or you know, you complete each other's sentences, that kind of stuff. So I've seen that in all different relationships with people, you know. So
Smack your mic around again.
So,
I'm sorry.
So that's just a good analogy too, to help with that. So in other words, if in the example of, you know, these two beings who have a good, you know, friendship, good relationship, right? They don't always talk in shorthand, have an in-depth conversation, have these different things all at once. I mean, sometimes they may, you know, in an in-depth conversation, they may have a side little conversation or a little shorthand or body language that, you know. So yeah, but so if you extrapolate that to yourself and your nudges and your conversations, some will come, you know, just a little reminder here, or you'll just feel something a certain way, or you'll actually hear it in, you know, in your head. Sometimes you may hear it in your from your actual auditory ears and your auditory canal, where it will be, could be a voice sound, it could be you know, music, it could be something. But so it does come in lots of different ways, and all beings will, yeah, all beings will have all of those show up for them in various ways. Does that make sense? So if you, you know, I'm not going to count them right now, but if you had 5 different ways, all beings would have, there's more than that, but if you had 5 different ways, they would show up, some to a greater or lesser, you know, extent, because again, that's your natural rhythm. And as you get more connected to, more you know, stop blocking and arguing, you know, they'll come in, they'll change up their rhythm a little bit, because one will be, for whatever reason, more just that is used most often, or used in specific kinds of things. Does that make sense?
Yes. But I also want to say something here, because this kind of goes to, for me personally, what I've kind of figured out for myself in regards to myself, and that is that it's okay. It doesn't really matter. It's okay if I get one and I didn't realize it and didn't follow it or whatever. I don't have to beat myself up over it.
That would be very helpful not to do
right. And number 2, and number 2 also, that I don't have to concern myself that I'm ignoring ones that I'm getting, that I don't know if I'm getting or not. And the reason I'm bringing that up is that because again, for me, just recently here, I've come to know that there are things that I don't know, and there's reasons I don't know them. I'm right where I need to be. I don't have to be frustrated with myself because I'm not getting as many nudges, say, as BZ and Lisa. I don't have to be angry or upset with myself in regards to that. First of all, because I shouldn't be comparing myself to anybody, because I'm unique. But secondly, for me personally, I'm aware that, again, I don't know if I said this on camera before or not, but I don't know things until I need to know them, because I will tell everything I know. And now I know that I set it up for myself that I won't know before I'm not supposed to. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
That was something that I just came to just recently for myself. And it actually, I don't know, coming to that comprehension was very helpful.
Well, a couple of things that you just mentioned that I think would be good to play with a little bit. So, anytime that you are comparing yourself to whoever, whatever, right? That is fully ensconced in your linearness, your ego mindness, and your heart is closed. It's just a good example. So when you're doing that, you go, oh, okay, great. So now I know, right? If you had this question, what does it look like when my heart is closed and I'm going, navigating the world through my ego lower mind? This is a good example. Okay. Now, if you then go, oh, I did it again. Okay. That's another really good example. And if you keep doing it, that's even more good examples, right? So that's another way of saying what you just said. It's you don't need to do that. If you feel the need to do that, then feel the need to do that. And when it's not working for you anymore to feel the need to do that, then you'll quit doing it. Because you're getting direct empirical data evidence in various ways and cascading, exponentially larger, demonstrable, demarcation type ways to show you that. It's all information. It's all data. And how you choose to play with that data, pay attention to or not, flow with or not, that data is entirely up to you. Now, another thing you said, you'll know things when you're supposed to know them, and missing a nudge is not this horrible thing. That's absolutely correct. And at the same time, when you miss nudges, you could look at what it is that's causing you to miss them. Because you want yourself, so you in the chair, want yourself to notice the nudges and follow them, because even if it's the tiniest, thinnest, palest, little baby whisper, that's something, and that you want to do it. So every time you do it, there is joyous celebration. Every time you do it, there is uncalculable richness and rewards in that. Does that mean, because linear brains just said, okay, so that must mean every time I don't, there's the equal and opposite, punitive effect? No, because that's a linear brain, closed-hearted, ego-mindedness thing, which is what? A direct result, and it's actually a tool of the false construct. So that's a good example where there's not that. Now, it does seem like that's there, because the linear part of us, throws out stuff which gives us feedback on that, but not in the pure sense of the word. It's not.
Well, I don't know that I've recently missed any nudges, but I could have, because
And as you follow them, act on them, and you make it a priority to notice them, follow through on them, whatever they are, and be 100% committed to doing that and doing whatever it takes to do that, you will notice that your nudges change. They expand, they're richer, they're more delicious, they lead you in different ways, they change your whole life in the most sublimely delicious ways. They put you more and more in a a linear cognitive knowing of that connection within you, of that conversation going on with you. They reveal this most amazing friend that you've ever had, ever, and that you're never alone, and that you're always supported, and that you're always loved beyond measure, and that you actually have all the resources and the answers and the abilities and the support and all that. I mean, you've got your own team, and you are the team. So when you follow that, and it begets more of that, because you are proving to yourself, again, to look at it from a linear perspective, your higher aspects of yourself, that you can stay with an open heart, that you can move beyond the vice grip hold of your linear ego mind. And for me, when this happened, as I gave voice to in a variety of different ways that were very clear, and using my voice just as I am now, and claiming it, and committing to it, about following the nudges, then I jumped up a whole nother level, and it was a process that kept going and going and going and unfolding, and because now I was basically saying, think of it, you want to, there's this cool game you like to play, and you want to get picked for the team, or you're on the team, but you want to have, you want to play more innings, or it's not really a good analogy, but it's the best I got from a linear standpoint, right? So you get in by showing that you're a team player, do these kinds of things. So the nudges is the same way. And the game that you're playing is what you came here to do. The missions and the purpose and the expansion that you, with you, agreed to do, chose to do, wanted to do, was jonesing about, fabulously excited about, couldn't wait to do. And so as you go through this process, you step up within yourself another level of expansion, another level of widening your aperture. And so more stuff comes flooding in. So some people get a bunch of nudges, and some seem to have bigger nudges or specific tasks. You can see it's, they have specific tasks that that's part of what they're doing, and they know it, and they understand, and they go do it, right? But that doesn't occur because they said, well, I like, the ones that are blue I like, the ones that are brown I don't like, the ones that are easy I like, the ones that are hard that I don't like, the ones that I feel comfortable doing I'll do, the ones that I don't feel comfortable doing I won't do. It doesn't work that way. So when you say I'm all in and I'm committed, and you say that, and you are that, and you be that, and you do that, then you get them. And regardless of what color they are, or comfort level, or anything else, when you're in that space and you're doing it, you're on that path, regardless of what they are, how they come in, or what unfolds, they are magnificent. They are absolutely cosmically delicious. And they are so fun and so exciting and so exhilarating and so pot of gold at the end of the rainbow-ness to them. that you simply just don't pay any attention. You pay no mind to any of the other characterizations that could be given, ascribed to, the various things of that. So, I think I've mentioned this once before, but I'm not sure if it was on camera. But so you can have a nudge as simple as, I've had a nudge as simple as, very subtle. I might describe this particular one I'm thinking of as where it was, I could hear it in my head. That's not a good place to put that. And very soft, very quiet, very loud because it's clear as a bell, in that respect. And, there have been times when I would have, if that had come in just like that, I didn't listen to it and, empirical data, got it, And sometimes I would and go, yeah, and without even thinking about it, very subtle, took me a nanosecond and I would just, innately, it was almost like this came in, the hand went out, moved something just a little, and I went right on. I never stopped. If you were watching, all you would see, maybe a little expression on my face, maybe not, and a hand would move to do something, and I'd keep right on going. So if I was walking at a certain speed from one part, let's say one room to another, and I was walking by, let's say, a table or something, get the nudge, I would shift it, and I would keep going. I wouldn't break stride, wouldn't do anything, So that would be a subtle one. Now, if I was really interested in what was in the container or in the whatever, that, that's not a good place for that. And I didn't listen to the nudge, and not only was it now smushed on the floor, crashed on the floor, whatever, and I had to clean it up because it was my mess that I made because I didn't live right, this isn't an extreme as far as expansive, but it's certainly a different jump than this, to getting the nudge to come out to the West Coast, to pack up my 2 dogs at the time, same cat, 2 dogs at the time, get on a plane with, I think it was $28 or something in my pocket, and come. And I said, yes, got it, okay, and did it. So that's not the further, I'm not looking at those as bookends of the smallest, we'll say, or the largest. That certainly is not the largest by any means. But that's just to give you a good range. So for me, that's once I made that commitment and gave voice to that commitment and stood all in, that would, those 2 examples I just gave you would be a good example of, how things grew in the nudge department. Because it was clear and unmistakable that I was actually all in. Yep, I'm there. I got it. Yes, okay. As okay, let's do this, or okay, I got it, or Roger that kind of a thing, but always yes. And so I trained myself how to do that. So would I, if I could, go back and ungive voice to it? No. You couldn't pay me any amount of riches in any galaxy, in any of the multiverses, to do that. I might ask why I waited so long to do it, and in a linear number of years aspect, they didn't actually wait, chronologically that long to do it, but it was a long time. I shouldn't have waited that long, and that's a linear way to do it, but it was all okay. Whatever I did it, if I had done it or not done it, it was all good with me because it's all my choice. But I am so glad that I did. And I'm, regardless of what the nudge has been or the instructions have been, or remember when I gave the example of them, this color or that color, or comfy or not comfy, they've all been delicious. Even in the middle of the not comfy ones, they've been delicious. And have some of them made me really stretch and grow? Yeah. And would part of me at the time go, oh yeah, this is a great one. I'm really glad we signed up for this one. This is good. Yeah. But never any hesitation. And felt no problem whatsoever voicing the whose great idea was this. And sharing that with myself, that conversation, so. But I know that there's jobs I'm here to do, missions I'm here to do, soul purposes I'm here to accomplish. Do I know all of them? No. Do I know a lot of them? Yes. Have I completed some and they're, wrapped up? Yes. Am I fully ensconced in a whole bunch right now? Yes. Are there others to come? Yes. Will they shift and change? Yes. Are there some right on the event horizon that I've gotten some hints on, some little baby kind of, foreshadowing nudges on? Yes. Do I know what they are yet? No. Do I get frustrated at that? No, really don't. Because, well, first of all, I got so much going on and so many different things that I don't really have the time to do it. But I've also learned, because I've taught myself through empirical data, that I don't need to worry about it. Because I'm in control. And I got this. And if I'm doubting that I'm not in control, then I'm starting to veer into territory where my heart is closed, and even if it's just for that nanosecond. And that's another gift. That's another delicious thing, because that's another place for integration. That's another little, could be a little tiny little bit or a bigger thing for, whole. And that's another quantum jump. So that's more cool stuff coming in. That's more, more love being revealed, felt, seen, played in, joyfully singing with for me. And since I'm a transmitter, as we all are, that's more that I can be of service to and with and share with others. So one last thought just on this I want to say, and I was gonna just about to say it anyways, and then I got nudged to say it, which I think is funny. So yes, I'm getting to it, is that everything that I just described, everybody can do. Many everybody's already have experiences exactly what I'm talking about. A bunch, well, I have to be careful how I describe this. I was going to say a bunch may have not yet, except that's wholly inaccurate, because they just haven't noticed it as such.
Well, yes, thank you for that, because that's exactly what I was about to say, because that's exactly what I've discovered for myself. As you know, we talked about that a little earlier. So, and the reasoning behind that is clear. It has to do with the programming and the conditioning and the continuing to doubt oneself because of that programming and conditioning that, perhaps I haven't found the last thread to this particular type of program or whatever that's causing that niggling doubt of something or whatever.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And from a certain perspective, yes. And also, you're not missing anything.
Right.
And it's not like I drank the right something, or, I had the right something, or I came in with, more software or, a certain motherboard or whatever, not the case, not the case. So that's really important to play with a bit, because so whether it's myself and what we were just been talking about, or anyone else that you may, any kind of comparing and everything, there and you can do so. Any of the users, there are many things that you can do, that you have a talent for, that you are known for in the multiverses for, that I am really not very good at. And that's the same for so that's the same for lots of beings, and all, you can kind of trade those things back and forth, as little examples, kind of a thing, because you're you, and that's an amazing thing. You just have to get used to it.
Well, believing you are who you are is coming to fully comprehend all of who we are. Might take a second, might take a second,
or not,
right? Or not, and it doesn't, and it's all okay.
Yes, absolutely. And anybody who says it's not, thank you very much. And I appreciate, that experience. And I got this.
Awesome.
And, that's what each being can say to that.
Yeah.
And be joyful and happy, confident in saying that. Now, don't be attached to it, though, because if you had, in that moment, it was a certain level or layer or whatever, linear thing you're ascribing to it, and you shift in the next moment to something different, don't, because that's another thing that happens. People say, well, I'm where I am at, and I don't know right this moment for this reason, X, Y, and Z, and I'm good with that. And then all of a sudden you know something, or you're saying, you're like, then you fight that, because it's not here, because you actually just use this as an attachment as opposed to something else. So, you're
comprehending that.
Well, just as you're choosing, and you have awareness, we'll say, to what you're aware of, and at that moment, because you have a whole host of things within you already. You just may only be aware of a few of them. And we were saying, if someone says, well, you need to do this, Y, and Z, because you need to get there, and you're here where you are, so be happy with where you are. But what I'm saying is, don't be attached to where you are.
Oh, yeah.
That you're only here, so that when you jump to, well, that may sound funny, except an awful lot of beings like to play in that frequency neighborhood, and then they wonder why they're frustrated or stuck, or
right.
And that's
okay. No, I just didn't comprehend exactly what you meant just then, but now I get it. Yeah, because if you become attached to it,
the open hand, we were talking.
Right, then you're kind of, it's like this. Then
don't go like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And doesn't that even feel better?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. It does. There's nothing blocking anything.
Mm-hmm. Well, except for you, because no, I'm right. I can be where I need to be, and I don't want to go.
Well, and you know what? That's right. Each individual can be exactly where they want to be, and that is a choice. That is a choice. And until you ladies, I was real frustrated with a whole lot of people's choices. It's like, how could you even possibly want to choose that? But I get it now. And that's, everybody, so yeah. That open-handed thing, though, that's the thing for all of it.
That's the ticket. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm dizzy again. Thank you very much.
Always a pleasure. Always.
Our work is done here.
Yeah, right.
We're all sufficient.
You got, what is it when I can't think of the right metaphor, but you've got if you take out these amplifier beams or something, so one way Lisa and I are Sheila's amplifier beams of the dizzy expansionness because she's called it in. So
that's correct. And I've enjoyed every moment of it, and I'm looking so forward to many more. Believe you me, this has been, honest to goodness, this past year, 2 years, because really since that gathering here, honestly, right here in my home in July of 2016, it has been one fast-paced bit of expansion for me, and so it's really been a very dizzying pace.
It's just getting started,
but it's also
it's been slow, baby. You've been slow until right about now.
Well, it's really picked up in the last, I don't know, a little bit here.
No, and BZ's saying it's been slow.
I know. Okay, my hair is already going like this. It's no wonder I can't be anything but dizzy sometimes. Just trying to catch up with myself. So is there anything else that either one of you would like to add to this energetic envelope?
Not to this one. A whole pile of stuff came in, but not to this one.
Awesome.
We are complete.
Well, I really like the fact that there are more folks that are beginning to ask questions, and the comments are fine if that's where you'd like to, but for a little more extended, like if you have a question that you want to be a little bit more specific about, please do email. It's in every show more section of the video, ppcunite@gmail.com. And there's ways to get in touch with Lisa and VZ. All their information is in every one of these videos. So
yeah, and for me,
love to hear from you.
The comments on the IUV are an excellent way to do it. And here's a tip, which I think most people know, but I'll put it out there anyways. All comments are held for review just because of the volume of comments that the IUV gets and the volume of attacks that the IUV is under. And that's it's a lot of man hours, but it's the least expensive way that I can do it because it's got a lot of expenses on the IUV. So if you want to write a comment, just write at the top, do not publish, and then write me your thing. And right there, I've got it. It's easy. I've got your email. I grab it, I delete the thing, and I've got the email address is also on the contact us tab. But I'm just saying that. So there's always many. It's multidimensional, so there's many different ways to do it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I guess it's honestly, the comment section for Conscious Conversation Central is also held for approval. That's not something I was aware that could be done. And it's not, well, you know, CCC doesn't have the volume that IUV does by any means. But, you know, there's been some unfriendlies once or twice that wanted to play, and that's my playground, and I don't cotton to shills and things like that. And as we were out and about, and you know, we attracted a few. So yes, the comments on CCC are held for approval as well. But I've really not had to not approve very many. So it's only been those that are pretty much known shills around that.
Yeah, I just mentioned it that way because that's a great space. It's easy to do. It's if you're at at this video, the video that this is on post, and it comes to mind right then and there, just write the comment. Well, and if you don't want it published, that's great. Just write at the top,
Yeah, I like that. So I think the same thing would apply to Conscious Conversation Central. I didn't even think about that, but I think that's why I wanted to include the fact that it's the same for me. Mm-hmm. So thank you, ladies. This has been a really good one too. Mm-hmm. All our conversations are good, though, for me anyway. All right, so we'll have everything in the show more section, and till next time.
Thank you.